morning, everybody. I have to say, it's an absolute privilege to speak here in Europe. Normally, these talks happen in the United States, and that, of course, is good, but it's better to be closer to home. So thanks very much. When people think about breathing, their eyes normally glaze over. It must be a very boring subject to many of you. I'm hoping to untangle that and to go a little bit deeper into breathing. Because most people, when they talk about breathing, they are scratching the surface. And they really do not understand breathing. And that goes across all professions. I've spoken at mental health conferences. The last one I spoke was Integrated Medicine for Mental Health in San Diego about 2 weeks ago. 1,600 psychiatrists, psychologists, psychotherapists. They did not understand about breathing. But yet breathing is the bridge to the mind. What does it mean to breathe? What does it mean to breathe well? What does it mean not to breathe well? How many people do not breathe well, and what can you do to change it? I came into this solely because of my own health problems, just like Dr. Florian earlier on. When we have a personal motive, it really spurs us to look into it much more deeper. And many of you here, you were here not because of a learning that you've done at university, but it's something your curiosity aroused you, or you've seen that there was a problem that needed to be addressed, and you start on your own journey. And this really is what these groups here are about. So many of you are here for your own health, or for your children's health, and then your patient's health. I was a chronic memory. It's common. 25 to 50% of all children. I had asthma as a kid, growing up, first chronic bronchitis. Diagnosed with asthma about 4 years of age. If you have asthma, you don't just have asthma, you also have a stuffy nose. If you have a stuffy nose, you don't just have a stuffy nose, you are 2 to 3 times more likely to be tired. You never just have a stuffy nose, you also have reduced cognitive function, and you have fatigue. So anybody coming into you with a stuffy nose, you know it's not just a stuffy nose. You don't breathe through a stuffy nose. And the reason that you don't breathe through a stuffy nose is because it feels uncomfortable. So my doctor gave me plenty of medication for about 17 years, never once requested that I breathe through my nose. Never once was it considered that the nose is the natural organ to help everything in terms of breathing for the lungs. And we cannot differentiate the upper airway from the lower airway because it's one unified airway. Whatever is happening in the lungs will travel up to the nose, and whatever is happening in the nose will travel down to the lungs. And that also pertains to sleep disorder breathing. So you might think sleep disorder breathing is all about the upper airway. It's not. You have to consider the lungs. And anybody coming into you with sleep disorder breathing, whether it's a child or an adult, you need to look at their breathing patterns. Because you could be trying different modalities and different treatments, but if those individuals continue to have dysfunctional breathing, that is going to hold them back. In 1994, I had an operation on my nose to help me breathe better through it. I went to the ear, nose and throat doctor. He did turbinate reduction surgery. He corrected a deviated septum. It's not quite perfect, but he corrected it. It's much better than what it was. But the good doctor never told me to breathe through it. I didn't breathe through my nose after the surgery. Why? Because I'd spent probably 15, 16, no, it was more. It was 20 years breathing through an open mouth. And if you're breathing through an open mouth for 20 years, and if somebody fixes your nose, it doesn't mean that you are going to breathe through it. Now that applies to both children and to adults. Don't assume that when you fix the nose, the person is going to breathe through it. So in 1995, I continued mouth breathing. 1996, 1997, until in 1998, I read a newspaper article, and it was about the work of a Ukrainian doctor, Konstantin Yutekno. He said 2 things. He said, breathe in and out through your nose, and he said your breathing should be light. My breathing was none of those. And that's why, when I read the article, I realized there was something up here. So I did an exercise to decongest my nose, and it actually worked. And then I did an exercise to breathe less air, and the temperature of my hands increased, and I was feeling calmer. I never realized that the more air I was breathing, the more it was causing me into a stress response, and also the more air I was breathing, the more my blood vessels narrowed, and the less oxygen that was being delivered throughout my body. My sleep was also impacted because of chronic mouth breathing and low tongue resting posture. You know all of this information. So I changed careers. I did graduate from Trinity College in Dublin. I had a hard time getting through it, by the way. You put a mouth breather through school and into university, and that mouth breather has to work a lot harder. Why? Because a mouth breather has poorer sleep and reduced cognitive function. And if you are tired, you have 10 times the risk of learning difficulties. 10 times the risk. How many times throughout Europe will a child or adult go into a practice today, go in with their mouth open, and get advice on the importance of nasal breathing? Why does it not happen? Probably because it's so simple. But that shouldn't be overlooked. So today I'm going to give you a practical talk. I also would like to bring you through the exercises. So I hope at the end of the 2 hours that you will have a better insight into breathing, but I'm sure many of you have a good insight anyway, hence you're here. So when we look at breathing,